is in a close race to ask for a recount. I mean, you know, it's something down the line that you guys could think about.
I agree. Yes.
You know, what we're hoping to ask is to get a candidate pledge that elections aren't any good unless they're transparent, trackable, and publicly verified, and get the candidate to honor the voter by making sure elections are verified. And I know that that's going to be part of our strategy in Ohio and other states, is to get these pledges going and have a candidate sign up with one lawyer and have that lawyer write in and be able to say, I represent so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, and we want to know that you are saving those ballot images, that we know how they work, and that you cannot destroy them. And our intention is to use those, but also to use the start method to get back to the original ballot, because, you know, I always tell people, I'm a purist. I'm trying to get to the originals, and these ballot images are a good way to go ahead and do it. And most people don't realize is that there are now two official ballots, the one that you marked and the one that the computer counted, which are exactly the same. They could marry them with serial numbers, and we could have audits that are done publicly by precinct. And there's ways, because we know now that transparency is a solution to this problem. There's a catch-22 going on in elections. All these stories that happen in Florida, that's happening in Ohio, that's happening in Florida, you know, with this crew right here you're looking at, is that we're front linesmen. We're on the front lines and we're fighting. And we see what's really going on. And we get a good look at the system, sometimes from the bottom up, where, let's say, for example, other people come through and they get the tour and they get the bull. And I don't know that sometimes it takes a geek to help understand the Greek language of elections that's going on here, and the shenanigans that can be pulled with fraction magic. You know, I'm fighting for ballot images. Why? Because it's the next thing best to getting the original ballots, which are impossible to get in many states. I've been doing this now for 14 years. I'm more dedicated, more excited now by the opportunities in front of us to be able to lead, because that Lulu and that you know, that others on this program understand, you know, what we're up against, what we're fighting, and knowing that. And we know that, you know, fraction magic, which I was part of that team, fraction magic can change the numbers on the fly, but it cannot change a hand-marked paper ballot. That means we insist for hand-marked paper ballots. And it means that when that image is made, they should be married to each other, which is easy to do. If we can force them to put the inkjet back into the DS-850, okay, and do that. And we know that the ballot images are broken down to a precinct level that you can download and anybody can verify using the system that Karen McKim has developed out of Wisconsin. So basically, yes, elections, transparency is a solution. That's why I call on my friends, when you see ET next to your name, it doesn't mean extraterrestrial. It means election transparency. And then you're catching on that that's a solution. Where I'm dumbfounded is, why are we the only ones talking about it? You know, talking about all this money, doing this and that, but the reality is that we could get there doing what we're doing. I'm sorry, did I interrupt somebody?
Oh, no, I just wanted to mention, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but were you part of the AUDIT-USA reporting that was done during the primary? Do I have that right? You know, problems at the polls. And so I have tweeted out that AUDIT-USA report more times than I can count. I mean, I constantly bring it up, because what really struck me was, all of a sudden I'm watching, you know, and all of this happen on social media, and none of it is being reported on the news. And that was where I kind of went, okay, what is going on here? Like, this should be reported. This is news. Shouldn't be a partisan issue. But it was during the Democratic primary, and we can get into what those motives were there. But, you know, I just think this really matters for both sides. And yes, both sides have done things to suppress the vote or alter it. But, you know, I think everyone here has worked on stuff from the Democratic primary. And I think that's something we have to look at, because for us, we have CFAR candidates that are often up against an establishment Dem. And if they do become enough of a threat, is this something they're going to run into? So, yeah, I agree. Like, have it open to, in all cases, to be looked at. So,
well, I think the suggestion that Lulu made, I believe it was, to include that within the pledge, the C4 pledge would be a really good idea.
Yes, I agree. I will push for that again. So yeah, I think it's necessary. So
I mean, I think within reason also, if it's a blowout, then it's a blowout.
Right.
If it's an election that is close, say within 1 or 2%, or it's an election that for some reason doesn't seem to correspond to the polls, the exit polling or the polling that was done at the time, then that's something definitely the candidates want to be concerned about. And as we've talked about, the more that people can be just comfortable making those decisions and saying, hey, something doesn't look right here, I think I'd like a recount. I think, and it's not a stigmatized decision. That becomes a much more transparent process.
Right. Oh, Tim, hang on, you're muted. I unmute you. There you go.
Yeah. My race was interesting. The polls near the end of the race showed Wasserman Schultz maintaining an advantage, but we were within striking range, and there were a lot of undecided still. Those polls were based on telephone calls to, I think, about 600 people with landlines. Now, that tells you something about the sample. If you're doing polls based on only those who've got landlines. Our internal numbers showed a much different story, and I didn't really study the internal numbers after the loss until somewhat recently. I took them back out to look at them after the ballot destruction, and our field numbers were based on a much larger sample size. We had 4 field offices, a couple of hundred organizers and volunteers knocking on 10,000 to 12,000 doors a week. So when we lost by 13 percentage points, I was told, you lost by too much. There's no way that they could have stolen that many votes. And of course, that's looking at things in sort of the way maybe elections used to be stolen, where they actually stuffed the ballot box. Now, in this day and age, where it can be manipulated through computer software, what does it mean to lose by 13 percentage points? They could, I imagine, engineer any result that they want. But the 13-point spread was enough that it deterred me from contesting the election. There were some folks, like Ray, who were, and John Lutz, who were, encouraging me to contest the election. But the 10 days went fast. I had trouble even finding a lawyer who was willing to get on board and challenge the election. And I've been doing my penance ever since. I think it was the biggest mistake I made as a candidate, was at the finish line not formally contesting it. But, I think what prevents people is this culture of shaming. Candidates are told they'll be sore losers, they'll never have another chance. And then there's something sort of internal in all of us. And I basically liken it to a child who's taught to believe in Santa Claus. At a very early age, we are all taught to believe in the integrity of our elections. You just don't usually go there and question that. Unfortunately, I've come to the point where, I don't believe in Santa Claus or that the elections are fair anymore. And I think a lot of folks obviously are opening their eyes to that as well.
So,
if I can jump in there just quickly, is that, what he's saying is so true. I've been doing this for years, and candidates would come to me and say, hey, can you challenge this? Can you do that? And it's John breaking up.
Yeah, I just realized that, John. I got you and Ray mixed up. I'm sorry.
We knew what you meant.
And John was one of the fellows who was trying to, stiffen my backbone and get me to contest the election. And had I known you earlier, perhaps you would have been successful at that.
But I probably would have, and because you're the right character who listened and acted and saw this. but you were surrounded with people who didn't have much of a backbone, and it was part of the old system. We now know that a tipping point is upon us, and it's very important that, your leadership in helping others realize that if you're going to steal, don't steal by a little, steal by a big amount, because it's easier to believe, okay? That's part of the game that goes on. I've run fraction magic. I know how it works. It's incredible. It changed my life running it. I knew something like that existed, but to actually run it, sit down with Betty Smith and Bev Harris and play it out and watch it and how it works on a precinct level, I could never trust an election again. It made me focus on the solution, transparency, and I know that that's what we're all focusing on. What's Ray's doing in California is going to prove, was there a stack, a strip, and a flip? I mean, that is Google that. It's an incredible story how they could stack the front end, and Hillary wins by 66% in California. And then at the precinct, she only wins by 0.5%, but there's 825,000 provisionals written. And then they call the election, and they don't audit the last 36% of the vote. Well, when you stack on the front end, you're pushing John and Jose and Peter and Bev Harris' son-in-law into the 36%. And on the provisional end, because they said, oh, gee, you went to the precinct and you weren't a Democrat, you were a Green or a Libertarian. It's incredible how the voter database was used. And now that, a lot of us are woken up, we got to wake up more people to this fact. And I'm hoping people are listening to this or listening to it later and realize that we got to get active. We got to get in front of this, okay? We have a problem with both parties. There is a neoliberal and a neoconservative, and they eat at the same trough. And the neoliberals don't want progressive. They are paid to keep the status quo in the loop. And that's where I'm very grateful that Tim pulled out of the Democratic Party, because at a certain point you have to. Now, I'm still a member. And the only reason I'm still a member in Arizona is because I don't know where the independent party's meeting. Okay? Once I find out where they're meeting, I'll go to work with them. But right now, I'm going to stay in the party, be a precinct committeeman, and I'm going to be a good social justice gadfly. That's what I am. Who works for those 7 C's: character, capacity, credibility, civility. I'll call you a bad name real nicely, okay? And country, that's important. Citizenship, that's our right to do what we do. But the biggest one we have developed is activists and social justice gadflies, whatever you call yourself. It's courage. Courage to stand up, because our country really needs us to act. And that's why it's a real honor to be with this group of people right here, because they're activists, they're out there. I'm out here. I tell people I got a mission of 3 things: to go out and investigate, educate, and get ready to go. I have to, hopefully I don't, but litigate. That's what we're doing. And we're planting other troops. We just did Ohio, and it's incredible.
John, can you fill us in on what's happening on the ballot image case in Ohio?
Very interesting, okay? The situation is this. We got a decision Friday, and the decision is that they kicked us out on a technicality, okay? We gave them notice on the 9th of April that if they didn't respond within 10 days, that we were going to go ahead and sue them. And that was written to the Secretary of State in the 3 of the 15 counties that we're destroying. The 3 counties that we're destroying, believe it or not, were the most Democratic and most ethnic communities in the state. How do you like that, folks? Which happens all the time, going after them. So we went ahead and sued. I went up, met with Franklin County. They tried to scam me. Same thing in Cuyahoga County. I've done this too long. I know how the system works. So on the 19th of April, the Secretary of State sent a directive out, and he ordered all of the counties to have digital, and we didn't know this until after the suit was filed, that it ordered them to follow the law, but they should talk to their county attorney. So we don't know if they saved or not, and if our strategy worked. We do know that they got us kicked out, and the reason they got us kicked out is because it was a sure win. There's no way, with what we know in the law, in the state law, in the federal law, and now the clarification that's out, which comes out of the voluntary voting standards from 2005 and 2015, that anything that's generated from the system, and database has to be saved. If not, it's a 1 year in jail and $1,000 fine. And so they kicked us out because they're straightening up their house, but they know we're coming back at them because they laid it out. And it's a head attack before. The same thing happened in Maricopa in 2010 on a case I sued Maricopa on 7 points, is that we're fighting the we and the they. We are the they. The people in this meeting right now, the people listening. The we is the judges, and we're suing parts of their government. And they're going to give them a chance to clean things up. And so, Ohio, we're not done. We're going to see what's going to go on. And now we're working towards the November election. And we can see that in Ohio, that Franklin County is going to go 100% with the DS, and that they're going to have to save the images. Now we work with candidates to make sure, have a lawyer hit the counties and say, oh, I represent so-and-so, so-and-so, and we want to know before the election, are you properly saving this? Because we are going to wind up suing if you're not. And that's what we have to do, just not in Ohio, we have to do it all over the country.
That's a brilliant idea, because then it doesn't become a thing that each individual candidate has to do on their own. There's a system in place to deal with it. That's, yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
So I have a really big question, and I asked this. I was at People's Convergence. Paul, you probably don't remember. There were a lot of people there, but I came up to the table at the end and asked Bob Fitrakis, and I believe you were right there, but about this. If we make, what is the problem with if we make the voting systems the same across the country? If DHS what are your thoughts on DHS saying it's part of critical infrastructure and sort of making you made that face. So I wondered if you guys could talk about that a little bit, because I think there seems to be, I think they have already deemed it critical infrastructure, from my understanding. So what are the problems with that? And
well, there is an important
talks a lot about how it's really important that there be a unique identifying number that matches each digital ballot image back to the original ballot, the original paper ballot, so that you can always go back and audit the original paper ballot. And I know that's a very important point that you mentioned a lot, John.
To add to that, why is it so important is that we need to have elections that are transparent, trackable, and publicly verified. Because the largest party in this country doesn't vote. 106 million Americans, probably, part of them, not all of them, maybe 10 million, maybe 5 million, I don't know, but believe that Mark Twain was right when he said if elections made a difference, they wouldn't let us do it. And we need to have elections that we could get people to believe that they're real. Tomorrow morning, I'll go on Ernest Hancock's show, and he'll spend an hour arguing about why you should vote. He'll say you shouldn't, because it's rigged, and it's a fight. We agree on everything except the strategy. And I believe for our democracy to work, that we do have to have transparent. And my secret recipe for the final cure is this: hand-counted ballots that are hand-counted. I think the federal elections should be all by themselves. They should be on a Saturday or a Sunday, something convenient. I think it should be a 24-hour thing. And at the end, they're all hand-counted. And how many races could you have? 3 at the most. A presidential, a senator, and a representative in that race. That's all you have. Some, you would have 2. 1, you would have 1. How hard could that be? I believe in state rights. I want the states to compete against that. I want to build a culture of hand counting. Precinct, getting back local. Go ahead, Tim.
I'd like to chime in and agree with that. And I'm not an expert in the way all of you are. I haven't been studying these issues for a long time, so I come at it from a different place, as a candidate who feels injured and grieved. But I've come to feel that we should have a system of 100% paper ballots counted by hand in public on election evening by ordinary Americans. The federal government has the resources to pay 100,000 people or however many is needed. It really does. And that's what we should do. I agree as far as, what you just said, John, about election day being on a Saturday or a Sunday. or move President's Day to November and have a national holiday on that Tuesday to encourage people to vote and to encourage people to do their civic responsibility and to count ballots. Now, of course, I also would agree that there needs to be a record of those ballots, scanned images. From what I'm reading, open source software makes sense, and Lulu's points about chain of custody on all of this, whether it's the paper ballots or the scanned images, is crucial. But you look at the European countries, they've all banned the electronic voting machine. And it's because they know it's very unreliable, it's very easy to manipulate or to hack into. And for 200 years in this country, we had paper ballots counted by hand. And I think the turning point was that Bush v. Gore hanging Chad election. And as a result, this country just went all out towards electronic voting machines. And I think we got to go back to the paper ballots.
One more thing, and because I know we're going to run out of time, and I think this is important. In Ohio, they are about to fund probably about $100 million toward new election equipment. That bill has already passed the Senate, and it is in the House now. It just got referred to a Finance Committee in the House today. It's probably going to pass shortly. There are no requirements along with the funding whatsoever, nothing. It just has to meet certification, but they're not saying that they have to get paper ballots. They're not preventing barcodes from being purchased if the counties want to purchase the barcode machines. In fact, I know they're considering it. So it's something for people in Ohio to really become aware of. They do have a chance currently to get an amendment to that legislation that would at least require hand-marked or voter-marked paper ballots in order for the counties to get that funding. And it's something that I know in Georgia there was a huge push when they tried to get the barcode machines down there. And if people are listening in Ohio, it would be very smart to try to get a real push before that legislation gets passed.
And Lulu, I couldn't agree with you more. And so since I'm in Ohio working with Bob Petrakis, is that, please do get a hold of us. And, it's AUDIT-USA.org. That's how you can find our site. My email address is John Brakey with a, B-R-A-K-E-Y, a break with a Y, at gmail.com. We do need, it's an important state. It's a state that has decided many presidential elections and maybe a couple of stolen ones too. And it's incredible what goes on in Ohio. And we do need to recruit candidates. We do need to go ahead and keep on top of that. Also, Florida is another state we're looking to focus on, as well as Michigan and other states that we're working on. And so please, get active, get involved. It works. I mean, be an activist. An activist acts, not just behind a computer and says, gee, that's interesting. I want to criticize you. I'm going to go home and think I made some change. Get in the front line with us.
Right.
We'd love to have. We really would.
Amen, John. Amen.
I would like to ask one more question. It's regarding the DHS and sort of. The reason I asked that is I believe there were a couple of other states, and I think it was in Wisconsin, Illinois. I don't remember exactly or who the election officials were.
California too.
Okay. But that's made the same statement. I also bring it up because DHS did put out a statement in February basically saying, kind of clarifying that, I believe it was at CBS, and I think it was CBS, they said, look, it was Jeanette Monfort at DHS said, they're misrepresenting what we said, and they're saying that we reported there was hacking by Russia. And what we're saying is there was like preparatory scanning like activity. So it is very opaque, and you wonder, well, what exactly does that mean? And then
the voter database.
Right. Okay, but then some of the states are saying we only saw DHS here, so it does make you wonder. It's all the secrecy that I think the public just wants to know, and right, it could be bad actors on any side or different motivations, but without that transparency.
What a bad actor is that in Wisconsin, when I was up there, and Lulu was up there too, okay, where Ray was in Michigan, which was a complete disaster too, is that I was in Milwaukee, and And I walked up to the head guy and I said, gee, how does your results come in? Do you use a soft shoe network? That means somebody walking in the results with a thumb drive, or do you use phone modems, or do you use SIM cards? He looked at me and said, we use SIM cards. What are SIM cards? Cellular phone modems built into the system. I couldn't believe it. And I've been studying this, okay? Rhode Island, the whole state is wired for hacking, on the fly. And Wisconsin, a lot of their, Milwaukee, Waukesha, all of their systems, they did not hand count because they had phone modems. That's what I think, at least that's what I focused on. I was shocked to find out how the results. And like I said earlier, fraction magic can change numbers on the fly, especially if you have cellular phone modems built into it, okay? I remember 2006, how that hack went down would change things. We had a bigger win than we really had, but what happened was they built a wall and they built it into the system. Now, today, they can change it possibly on the fly. And that's why saving the images, fighting and getting involved, and getting candidates to sign up that they will contest because they owe it to their voter to know if their election really counts, if their vote really matters.
Right.
This is how we're going to fight back. And that's where we have to get proactive, not reactive.